Hello, this is Chloe Devon. This is the case study part 2 from Dr. Henderson's class, and it is on the same client that I discussed previously, Rachel. So the client's behavioral targets were to decrease aggressive behaviors and decrease tantrum behaviors. The aggressive behaviors included hitting, pinching, and kicking, and I operationally define those out to the side. Hitting is making contact with her hand. Pinching was using the pointer finger and thumb together on another person's skin. And then kicking is defined as making contact with her foot. And then the tantrum behavior was operationally defined as falling to the floor, making high-pitched vocal verbalizations, and going in and out of her chair in a vertical motion and it causing a noise. So that could also be floor flopping or chair flopping, along with those high-pitched verbalizations. And like discussed previously, this happened during DTT, so sitting at the table, engaging in trials. This is when that would occur most frequently. So during her FA, we determined that it was partially tangible but partially escape behaviors. And so that's how that was functionally relevant for her. So the intervention that we used to decrease all of those behaviors was a DRO, which is differential reinforcement of other behavior without extinction. And so with extinction is you do the intervention, they never get any reinforcement ever. So we did without extinction, and I will, you'll understand that in just a second. This intervention was used by stating a rule and then following that rule with a 2-minute timer of running trials continuously. If Rachel followed the rule, then she could get the reinforcer she asked for before the timer started. If the rule was not followed, she could have a lesser reinforcer or had the option to try again. So if we did it with extinction, she wouldn't even get the lesser reinforcer. And I'm going to go into a little more detail here. The intervention, so the rule that we used were in the beginning, before we stated the rule, we would say, what do you want to work for? So that she would be aware for what she was going to gain if she did follow that rule. And she would pick either the playground, the iPad, whatever reinforcement she wanted right then. And the rule was, she speaks in sign language, so you can't see me, but I would do the signs and say it out loud. We're going to go 2 minutes without hitting, without pushing, without kicking, and while sitting up at the table. And so that was the rule that we stated, and we would do a variant if she engaged in another aggressive behavior, like a random new behavior, just to see if something else would work. We would add that also into the rule so that it was very clear what the expectations were. And this intervention did show to be effective when the frequency for aggressive behaviors decreased, as well as the frequency and duration of tantrum behavior decreased. And so it was over the course of a few months, but slowly we started seeing those behaviors decreasing. And then after those behaviors decreased to a very, very minute amount, we slowly thinned that DRO intervention until she was no longer on it. And thankfully, we haven't had to go back to the DRO intervention. She has completely stopped engaging in these behaviors. And so, yeah, it worked out pretty well. So, lastly, the relevance and evidence-based part of this intervention. This intervention was functionally relevant because it showed Rachel that those undesirable behaviors would not be reinforced, therefore rendering them not useful to her anymore. And so once she learned that those behaviors weren't doing anything, we were ignoring the behaviors. We weren't engaging with her at all through the times that she would engage in those behaviors. And so it made the behaviors go away. And MyBCBA pulled up articles that proved that DRO was evidence-based and effective in other clinics and other articles. And so we use these articles as a foundation for our intervention, although it was individualized for the client. Like I said, she spoke sign language, and so we used sign language, to state the rule. We used our own timing based off of what we thought her tolerance was, and it turned out to work. So, yeah.